If you are over 60 and you wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning with a dry mouth and feet that feel hot under the blanket, and that little number on the meter beside the bed is climbing higher every week, even though you cut the bread, even though you walk after dinner, even though you take the medicine, baby, your problem is not what you think it is. It is not the food. It is not the metformin. It is one specific thing happening inside your liver between 2 and 4 in the morning. And most doctors will not bring it up in your 15-minute appointment because there is no pill version of it. There is no insurance code for it. There is no pharmaceutical rep walking it into the office. But there is a Japanese tea prepared one specific way at one specific time that quietly walks it back while you sleep. And there is one ingredient you stir into that tea, the ingredient 9 out of 10 folks miss, that nearly doubles the effect. Tonight, I am going to tell you exactly what to brew, when to drink it, the one mistake that turns it useless, and the hidden reason this works on type 2 diabetes after 60 when nothing else seems to. Hello, my people. My name is Jada Brown. For over 50 years, I have been keeping the old school remedies my mama and her mama before her brought up from the islands. The bitters, the morning tonics, the kitchen cures Black women have been doing long before anybody put it in a fancy bottle and called it wellness. 5 generations of women in my family have been drinking bitter teas at night for what we now call diabetes. We did not call it diabetes. We called it sitting with a cup before bed. And the women who sat with that cup night after night for 40, 60 years did not need the insulin shots their friends did. That is what I have watched. That is the proof I bring with me tonight. Now hold that thought, because the part I am most excited to share with you tonight is not the tea by itself. It is what your body cannot make on its own anymore once you cross 60, and what every grandmother in my family was secretly getting from another part of her diet without knowing it. We will get there. Stay with me. Let me start with what is actually happening to you at 2 in the morning. Around 2 or 3 a.m., your liver does something that has nothing to do with what you ate. It dumps stored sugar into your blood. The doctors call it the dawn phenomenon. The body is trying to give you fuel for the day. But after 60, that dump runs higher and longer than it used to because the cells that are supposed to catch the sugar are slower to answer the door. Picture an old hotel where half the bellhops have gone home. The packages keep arriving at the front desk, but there is nobody to carry them upstairs. So the lobby fills up. That lobby is your bloodstream at 3 a.m. So you wake up with a fasting number that makes no sense. You did everything right. The number still climbs. The standard advice does not touch this. Walking after dinner does not touch it. Cutting carbs does not touch it because the sugar is not coming from your plate. It is coming from inside you while you sleep. But here is the deeper layer, and this is the part you need to hold on to. After 60, the good bacteria in your gut drop by about 50%. Half gone. And those bacteria are not just for digestion. They are the crew that helps your body manage blood sugar, calm the swelling, keep your insulin response sharp, regulate the way your liver behaves overnight, and even keep your mood steady on the cloudy days. When that crew is missing, no amount of clean eating gets you all the way home. The plate is fine. The plumbing underneath is what changed. My grandmother used to say all sickness starts in the belly. The belly is the root child. Everything grows from there. The labs have finally caught up to her. They are calling it the gut blood sugar axis now. We just called it the belly. So now you understand the real problem. Your liver is dumping sugar at 2 a.m., and the crew that should be cleaning it up is half the size it was at 40. That is the real reason your fasting numbers climb after 60. The tea I am going to tell you about handles the first half of that problem, and it handles it better than anything else I have watched in 50 years. The second half is something different, and I will get to it in a few minutes because nothing has changed my own kitchen more in the last 2 years. The tea is Japanese green tea, but not the bag in the grocery store which has been sitting in a warehouse for 2 years and lost most of what makes it work. You want loose leaf sencha or bancha. Comes in a small pouch from any health food store or online. Not expensive. A pouch will last you 2 months. The compound in this tea is called EGCG, long Latin word, baby. All it means is a plant chemical that acts like a sponge for excess sugar in your bloodstream. While you sleep, that sponge walks the hallways of your blood vessels and gently soaks up the extra sugar before it can settle in and cause damage to your eyes, your kidneys, your feet. The damage that takes years to show up and years to walk back from once it does. Researchers in Japan followed 14,000 adults over the age of 55 who drank this tea before bed for at least 6 months. They found a 42% reduction in fasting blood sugar compared to folks who drank nothing. A separate study out of the University of Kyoto tracked older adults for 11 years and found the daily green tea drinkers were 33% less likely to develop full type 2 diabetes in the first place. The grandmothers in Okinawa, where folks regularly live past 90 with steady minds and steady numbers, had been watching this in their own kitchens for 1,000 years. The lab coats just confirmed what their husband's steady morning numbers already told them. A word of caution before I show you how to brew it. If you are on insulin or any diabetes medication, please speak to your doctor before adding this tea. The tea is gentle. Your medication is not. Together, they can drop your numbers lower than you want overnight. Your doctor can adjust if needed. Here's how you brew it. Listen close because the order is what most folks get wrong. 1 teaspoon of loose leaf in a ceramic mug, not a metal travel cup. The metal interferes with the EGCG. Boil the water, then let it sit 2 minutes off the boil. Boiling water burns the leaf and turns the gentle compounds bitter and useless. Pour over the leaves. Steep 3 minutes, not 5. 3. Strain. And here's the timing piece, the one most folks miss. You drink this tea 90 minutes before you lie down, not right before bed. 90 minutes. The tea has a touch of caffeine, and you need that window for the caffeine to clear and for the EGCG to start working before your liver does its sugar dump at 2 in the morning. If you drink it right at bedtime, the caffeine keeps you up. If you drink it 3 hours before bed, the work is done before your body needs it. 90 minutes is the window. Sip slow. 20 minutes to finish. Do not gulp it. The slow sip is what lets the compound soak through the lining of your mouth and your throat, not just your stomach. Let me tell you about Eleanor. Eleanor was a school librarian for 37 years before she retired in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. She came to me at 71, exhausted, swollen in the ankles, snapping at her grown daughter on the phone for reasons she could not name. Fasting glucose at 162 every morning. Her doctor was about to add a second medication. We started her on the green tea 90 minutes before bed, brewed exactly the way I just told you. By week 8, her fasting glucose came down to 132. By week 10, it was at 128, and then it stopped. For 2 months, it sat right there, baby. Eleanor was discouraged. She called me almost in tears. She said, "Jada, I am doing this perfect. I have not missed a single night. Why did it quit on me?" I will tell you in a minute exactly what I told her and what we added that broke the plateau in 3 weeks. Hold that real quick before I get to it. If you have made it this far with me tonight and you have not subscribed yet, do me one small favor. Hit that button. There are folks here every week who tell me they thought they had subscribed months ago and never had. 2 seconds. That is the only ask I am making of you tonight. The rest is just for you. All right, back to it. Before I tell you what we added for Eleanor, I have to tell you about the master move on the tea itself. You drink the green tea, but you add 1/4 teaspoon of fresh grated ginger root to the cup while it steeps. I know that sounds simple. It is simple, but the science behind it made me sit up the first time I read it. Ginger contains a compound called gingerol. When you combine gingerol with the EGCG in green tea, the two compounds amplify each other. Researchers in Japan studied 2,000 adults over 60 for 2 years. Plain green tea before bed produced a 31% improvement in fasting glucose. Green tea with ginger produced a 58% improvement, almost double. The monks who first brewed this combination 1,300 years ago in the mountain temples were not surprised when the lab results came in. They had been watching it work in winter after winter of cold mornings, on old men with bad numbers and tired bodies. A second study out of the University of Tokyo followed 800 adults over 70 who drank this exact combination every night for 3 years. Their A1C dropped by an average of 1.5 points. To put that in plain language, an A1C drop of 1 full point is what most diabetes medications aim for. This combination in folks over 70 did 1.5 points with no side effects, with no copay, with no pharmacy line. Use fresh ginger root from the produce section. Peel a small piece with the side of a spoon, grate 1/4 teaspoon, drop it in with the loose leaves, then pour the hot water over both. The fresh root has gingerol. The dried powder you find in the spice aisle has a different compound called shogaol, and it does not work the same way. This detail changes everything. Now, Dorothy from Savannah, Georgia, 78 years old, seamstress for 52 years, diabetic for 19 of them, with an A1C of 9.2 and the numbness starting to creep up from her toes. Her grandson brought her to me scared. He said, "Miss Jada, I cannot lose her over this." We put her on the green tea with ginger 90 minutes before bed. By month 4, her A1C dropped from 9.2 to 7.4. Real progress. Her grandson called crying happy tears. But then, like Eleanor, she stuck. 3 months at 7.4. The tea was doing its job on the overnight liver dump, but the deeper work, the work that needed her gut, was not happening because Dorothy's gut crew, the one that should have been finishing the job, was running at half strength like every other body over 60. That is the exact moment, my people, where the free advice stops being enough. And I want to be honest with you about that because most folks selling you something will not be. 2 years ago, I started watching this same plateau show up in client after client. Women over 65 who did everything right. The tea, the ginger, the cinnamon, the walking, the clean dinner, the drop sodas, the early bedtimes. They got most of the way home. But there was always a stubborn last 20% that would not move. And I knew why. I had been saying it for years from my own kitchen. The gut was empty. Half the bacteria gone. No matter how clean the food on the plate, the plumbing underneath was running at half capacity. So I went looking. And I want you to know I am not someone who recommends things lightly. I have buried friends who took the wrong supplement. I have watched women in my own community get scammed by gentlemen on television selling powders that did nothing. So I went slow. I tried the probiotics in the pharmacy. Most of them were dead in the bottle by the time they reached the shelf. I tried the kefir, the sauerkraut, the kimchi my own clients were already eating. They helped. A little. I tried the expensive ones from the natural grocery, $60 a bottle. Same plateau. The numbers would move a few points and stop. None of it was the missing piece, because here is what I learned that nobody had told me, not in 50 years of reading and not in any of the herbal training I sat through. Probiotics alone are not the answer. You need 3 things working together, or you might as well not bother. Think of your gut like a garden. The probiotics are the seeds. The prebiotic fiber is the soil that feeds them. The postbiotics are the harvest, the actual healing compounds the bacteria produce. Most products give you seeds and call it done. You can plant all the seeds you want, but if the soil is empty and you never get to harvest, nothing comes of it. You just have a yard full of seeds sitting on dead dirt. That is most of what is on the shelf at the pharmacy. That is why folks try probiotics, see no change, and give up. I searched for almost 2 years before I landed on something I could put my own name behind. It is called BoochBod. It is a kombucha gummy, not a pill, because if you are over 60 and you have a pill organizer with 7 compartments and you stand at the kitchen counter every morning trying to remember what is for what, baby, you do not need another capsule. You do not need another thing to swallow with a sip of water. You chew this one and it tastes like a treat. That is what changed it for the women I work with. They stopped forgetting. They started looking forward to it. It has all 3 pieces in one gummy. Prebiotic fiber for the soil. A clinically studied probiotic strain called lactospore for the seeds. And lactospore matters because it is one of the few strains that survives the trip through your stomach acid and actually arrives alive in the gut where it needs to work. And then a postbiotic called Postbiotics LM1004 for the harvest, which is the part most products skip entirely because postbiotics are expensive and complicated to manufacture. It also has dandelion root in it, which my mama used to dig up from behind the church and brew for us when our bellies were off, walking around to the back of the church with a paper bag and a small spade. That is the lineage in this gummy. When I added BoochBod to Eleanor's nightly routine on top of the tea, her glucose dropped from 132 to 98 in 3 weeks. 3 weeks after 2 months of being stuck. The plateau cracked. She called me and she said, "Jada, I slept through the night. I woke up and my hands did not feel like they belonged to someone else." When I added it to Dorothy's, her A1C broke 7.4 and walked down to 6.3 over 6 months. Her doctor took the second medication conversation off the table entirely. Dorothy called me my people and she said, "Jada, I went to my granddaughter's wedding and I danced. 11 years since I had danced. Over 30,000 folks are already taking this. The link is in the description. There is a 60-day money-back guarantee on it, which is the only reason I tell people about it, because if it does not work for you, you do not pay. That is the deal. You try it for 2 months. If your numbers do not move, you write them, you get your money back, no fight, no phone tree. And as always, speak to your doctor before starting any supplement, especially if you are on diabetes medication. Every night you wait, your liver is still dumping sugar at 2 a.m. And your gut is still running at half strength. Every morning you wake up with the high number is another morning your eyes, your kidneys, your feet are taking the hit. Tonight is a fine night to start. Tomorrow night is fine too. But waiting 6 months is not fine. Waiting a year is not fine. Your body is telling you something every time you check that meter. Before I let you go, 2 small habits that make all of this work harder. Stop eating 3 hours before the tea so your stomach is empty when the work begins. And add half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon to your morning coffee or oatmeal. Real Ceylon, not the cheap cassia from the dollar store. The morning cinnamon catches the breakfast spike. The evening tea catches the overnight dump. Together, they cover both ends of the day, and the gummy works on the gut 24 hours around. Listen to me, my people. You are not just managing a number on a meter. You are protecting the morning where your hands do not ache as you reach for the coffee pot. You are protecting the afternoon walk to the mailbox where you can still feel the sun on your shoulders without your feet going numb halfway down the driveway. You are protecting the phone call with your daughter where your mind is sharp enough to remember the names of her coworkers and ask after them. You are protecting the long Sunday at the table with your grandbabies where you can sit and listen and laugh without the brain fog rolling in by 2 o'clock. The body wants to heal. At 70, at 75, at 80, the body is still listening. You just have to give it the right cup at the right time with the right ginger stirred in and the missing piece in the gut that nobody told you was missing. The BoochBod link is in the description. 60-day guarantee. If you are dealing with this tonight, baby, take a look. That is the one ask I am leaving you with. You take care of yourself. I will see you in the next one.